Hello. So my name's Sean. I'm an indie iOS developer and designer who works on an app called Sofa, which helps you be more intentional with your downtime. And in this video, I want to talk about how starting a new app is very easy, but growing and maintaining that app over time is more difficult. Okay, so I'm going to get into this. I have this broken down into some sections, so feel free to jump around as needed. So first, starting something is very easy and fun. I remember I was talking to someone about Sofa maybe like a year ago or something, and they were asking is it hard to start a business? And the answer is actually no. Like starting a business and starting an app is very easy. There's very few blockers to get in your way. It's really just like you going to do it. And I think there's a ton of excitement at the beginning, ton of motivation because you have this idea. You see all this, you kind of fantasize about where it's going to go and you get really, really excited. But then eventually you are going to hit a wall. And I think without good systems in place and good habits, it's going to be very hard to continue working on this thing and growing it over a longer period of time. So let's talk about hitting your first wall. So like I said, when you first start working on something, and I've experienced this personally where, you're kind of hustling on it, you're excited, you're motivated, but then you are going to hit a wall at some point. And that wall might be life, right? It might be, you're really busy at work, right? And you don't really have the time or the energy to work on another thing when you come home. Or you have a family and you literally don't have the time to do it because your life is super busy. Or say you're working on something, say you launch it, you get through that initial excitement of it, but it's not making the progress that you had hoped for. Right? Or the progress within a certain amount of time. So you kind of hit your first wall and you're struggling a little bit. That is that's just normal. Everyone's going to hit that wall unless there's, maybe their brain works a little bit differently. But I feel like this journey of me working on Sofa and building this up and now doing it full time is just a constant stream of hitting walls and figuring out how to either get through the wall or to go around the wall or even being is there a wall or is the wall imaginary in my head kind of thing. So I want to talk about some systems that I have used or I have found helpful that maybe you will find helpful as well as you're starting to work on stuff like this. So first, I think is setting the right expectations here. So first is this thing you're working on, do you want this to be your full-time job at some point? Or do you want this to be just a side thing, right? Is it just extra income for you? Is it just something fun for you to do? Is it a way for you to learn new technologies or just learn how to put an app out there or something? All of those things are justifiable and great. There's nothing wrong with any of those. But I think you kind of need to be clear. I think you need to be clear from the beginning, if this is, is this going to be a full-time business? Because you would treat it differently than if it's just a side thing. Now, for myself, Sofa, I always wanted Sofa to be a full-time business and full-time job for me. So I did things at the beginning to make sure that was the case there. The other thing is you need a lot of patience, which is easier said than done. But the chances of you making an app and that app becoming an overnight success and blowing up within a couple weeks or a couple months is pretty low, especially now that the kind of heyday of apps is I don't want to say over, but apps are just normal now. Whereas when apps were very new and novel, there were more opportunities for people to have these kind of like overnight successes with software and with apps, but that's pretty rare. And I think that you need to buckle in for a lot of patience with this stuff because it does not happen right away. Now, the other thing that I did is because when I started Sofa, I had a full-time job and a life, all that kind of stuff. So I also am, without guardrails, I'm a workaholic and I will work all the time. But that does not work if, you have a family, right? Like you want to spend time with your family, they want to spend time with you. So you working all the time isn't really gonna fly. And one of the things that I did from the suggestion of my wife was to have work nights where 2 nights a week were dedicated to working on Sofa, and that was it. So, for me, it was every Monday and Wednesday night where, I would come home from work, say I get home around like, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock. We would eat dinner, hang out a little bit, and then say from like 7:30-ish to whenever I wanted to go to bed, that was purely dedicated to Sofa and to working on the app. And I did that twice a week, and I did that for multiple years. And there were times where like I had an extra day, like, maybe my wife was going to do something or she had to work on a weekend or something like that. So I was like, oh, okay, here's like extra time I can work on this. But having those boundaries was actually really helpful for me and allowed me and the people around me to be a lot happier with what I was working on. And I would actually say I was concerned at the beginning that like it's like, oh, if I'm not working on this all the time or every day, like I'm not going to make progress. But I still made tons of progress because it was interesting where like I learned very quickly that sitting down in front of the computer doesn't necessarily mean you're working and making progress, right? Like you can be in front of the computer and just kind of like jumping between apps and stuff like that and not really doing anything. Where since I had these like pockets of time throughout the week, I knew I had to use those times very, very effectively. So throughout the week, I would jot notes down for, okay, what am I gonna work on this Monday night or this Wednesday night or whatever. And when I jumped into that work, I was like very, very focused and, basically turned everything off. It's like, all right, I'm going to like do this stuff for a solid, 4 hours. And you'd be surprised like what you can get done in blocks of time like that, blocks of uninterrupted time. And I know everyone's life is different and has different constraints and things, especially if you have kids. But I found that the work nights were such an amazing constraint that actually helped, the product and the business grow over time. So without disrupting the other parts of my life in really negative ways. The other thing is like, I kind of already said this, but like acknowledge that you're going to hit walls constantly. Like you will constantly hit walls. These walls can be technical. They can be design related. They can be emotional, physical, mental, like all types of stuff. Because like, people's lives are complicated. Maybe you're going through a rough time or maybe you're really tired or maybe you just need a break or whatever. Like there's so many things that can get in the way and kind of become these walls that are hard to make progress. But I would say that in combination with like the work nights and that like, okay, every Monday or Wednesday or whatever your work night is, this is when I'm focused on this stuff. And that time can be used for coding. It can be used for planning. Like it can be used for whatever you need it to be focused towards moving the business forward. And I think just acknowledging that like you're going to hit walls and there's going to be periods where like you're stuck or frustrated or whatever. That's the way it is. There's no way around it. Also, celebrate small milestones and wins. This is like, because this stuff the progress can feel so slow at times, and there can be times where you're like, is this even worth it? Like, is this going to work? I want to do this. Say I want to do this full time. Like, good Lord, am I ever going to get there? It can be demoralizing, all those things. And I think this is where, like, in combination with continuing to just show up and continuing to keep working, but also celebrate the milestones and the wins, because those are like the little moments that can get you through or get you past that wall that you're blocked with right now. And like, that can be little stuff, like maybe your subscriber numbers hit a certain milestone. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Like, if it hits it, you go, man, that's crazy. Like, I remember when Sofa made like its first $1,000, I was like, what the hell? Like, the fact that, like, I remember at the time I was like, the fact that like I made something, I put it on the internet and people are paying for it, like, it's just, it continues to blow my mind. But it's those little things that can help kind of push you through it. It can be revenue numbers. It can be press coverage. Like, if you get any kind of press coverage, like, that's amazing, because so many people want press coverage and don't get it. But if you get even a tiny bit, doesn't matter if it's someone just mentioned you in like one line of a longer article, doesn't matter. Like, take the win and celebrate that. Or like nice emails, right? If you allow people to kind of contact you, it can be a nice email, it can be a nice app review, or message someone sends on social media, whatever. Again, appreciate that stuff. It can be, when you feel like you're not making progress, it can be very easy to like dismiss those things because you're just frustrated. You feel like you're not in the place you want to be. But enjoy them. It's nice. Okay, next one. Surround yourself with supportive people. Now, this is easier said than done because, I'm lucky that I have tons of supportive people around me, with friends and family, and I didn't do anything to get that, right? Like, I was just lucky to be in that situation. And some people are unlucky and they're not in that situation, but, and that can make things way harder. But if you can, like, having support around you, whether that is emotional support, financial support, like whatever, it's, again, I think it's one of those things that's like, it's undervalued and overlooked, because when you look at like advice for starting an app or, starting a business, everything's like very, I don't know, technical. Either it's like super technical or like very spreadsheet oriented, that kind of stuff. But like, I think all these holistic things that are hard to measure and people don't really think about until they're in the weeds are kind of more important, to be honest with you. And having a good support system, and maybe that's finding like people online that are just like in the same place as you, or roughly in the same place as you, that can just kind of give you support and encouragement. So, the last thing here is just, this is going to sound super corny, but I swear I like actually believe this, but it's try and have fun. It's very easy for this stuff with like app development and customer support and trying to build this business while having a full-time job, a family, all this stuff. Like, it can be very, very stressful. And rightfully so. Like, some things are stressful. But try and like, think about like why you started this thing and that it's fun, and like, man, like this, the internet has like just unlocked all this stuff where I can be at home by myself and like have this business that is, supporting me and my wife and the cats and all that stuff. And it's very easy to quickly lose sight of that stuff and get very serious about it. And you should be serious about it, especially if you want it to be a business that people are paying for. But like, there's nothing wrong with having fun and having fun at work and just having fun in life. And I think, don't take yourself too seriously. Have a good time. Make fun stuff. That's it. Life can be very nice. So that's it, gang. hopefully this was helpful. You know, I've even had I've been like, I have other app ideas I want to work on, but that's a whole separate thing. And like, yeah, this stuff is just really good time. And if you can make any money doing this, even if it doesn't support you full time, it's amazing. So, but that's it. So if you are interested in checking out my app Sofa, I will have a link in the description where you can go check that out. But that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.